All right, let's dive into this topic. So yeah, on Wednesday evening, Republicans managed to secure a majority in the US Senate, right? And here's the thing. Control of the House of Representatives was still kind of hanging in the balance. It's a pretty close race with a lot of the most competitive seats still waiting to be called. Now, why does this matter so much? Well, having the House in either party's hands shapes the political landscape for the incoming administration. And that's a big deal, right? Okay, so here's the deal. With Donald Trump back in the White House, having a Republican majority in both the Senate and the House could mean a sort of united pro-Trump government. If that happens, it would let Trump and his administration push forward their policies without too much resistance. Now, if Democrats hold on to the House, they would actually be able to act as a major check on the new administration. So yeah, you can see why this is a high-stakes situation for both parties. By Wednesday night, the count was sitting at Republicans with 205 seats to the Democrats' 190. This count came from the Associated Press, which had called Democratic holds in places like New Jersey, Wisconsin, and Texas. Meanwhile, Republicans managed to hold onto their seats in Michigan, Wisconsin, and California. Yeah, it was neck and neck. And get this, Republicans in North Carolina managed to flip 3 seats that were previously held by Democrats, while on the flip side, Democrats grabbed seats in Alabama and New York. Now, because of how close these races are, it might take a few days or maybe even more than a week to really know who's won the House majority. Yeah, it's a bit of a waiting game. So let's talk numbers for a sec. All 435 seats in the House were up for grabs in this election, and Republicans were trying to widen their slim majority. They had been dealing with 2 pretty chaotic years in power, which had put their leadership under a lot of scrutiny. Mike Johnson, the current Republican Speaker of the House, was reelected to his 5th term, and yeah, he announced that he's going to run for Speaker again. Steve Scalise, the House Majority Leader, is also aiming to keep his role. You've got Elise Stefanik, a loyal Trump supporter and the highest-ranking Republican woman in the House, who also won a 6th term in New York. So yeah, there's a lot of Republican unity going into this. But, even with all these victories, the control of the House is still very much a toss-up. The Democrats only need to gain 5 seats more than they had in 2022 to win back their majority. Johnson, the Republican Speaker, sounds pretty optimistic about Republicans holding their majority. In his letter, he basically suggested that this win shows Americans are looking for secure borders, lower costs, and as he put it, a return to common sense, HM. It's clear that the Republicans are trying to frame this election as a mandate for their policies. Now, Scalise, the House Majority Leader, gave some insight into what the Trump administration's first 100 days might look like. He laid out priorities that included securing the border and ending a freeze on liquefied natural gas LNG exports. Yeah, they want to go full speed ahead on energy policies and cutting some regulations that they think have been holding back the economy. Okay, so part of their strategy includes tax cuts, expanding energy exploration, and repealing parts of the Democrats' Inflation Reduction Act. And they've also got plans to ramp up resources for the southern border to build what they're calling the Trump border wall and increase patrols to prevent illegal immigration. So yeah, it's a pretty intense agenda. Meanwhile, Hakeem Jeffries, who leads the Democrats in the House, is not backing down. He argued that the House is very much in play, saying the Democrats have a path to victory with seats in states like Arizona, Oregon, Iowa, and California. He pointed out that every vote needs to be counted to determine the party that'll control the House come January 2025. He's urging patience and suggesting the Democrats still have a shot. Yeah, this election's also been marked by some really intense rhetoric, especially from Republicans on topics like gender identity. Interestingly, Delaware elected its first openly transgender member of Congress, Sarah McBride, who's a Democrat. She's breaking new ground as the first openly trans person in Congress, which, yeah, makes this a historic moment. Oh, and redistricting has also played a big role in this election. This is when district lines get redrawn to account for population shifts, right? It's sometimes controversial, because depending on who's drawing the lines, it can influence which party has a better chance in a district. Democrats picked up seats because of it. Shamari Figures won in Alabama after his district was redrawn to improve black representation. Meanwhile, Republicans flipped 3 districts in North Carolina, thanks to new district maps drawn by the Republican-led state legislature. This redistricting has shaken up both parties, creating some new opportunities for each. The Democrats also snagged 2 seats in New York. Josh Riley, an attorney, defeated incumbent Republican Mark Molinaro, and John Mannion, a state senator, beat Brandon Williams, the Republican incumbent in upstate New York. Asham, that's a big deal because every win in these close races adds up and could shift control of the House. Right now, California is another hotspot with 10 super competitive races. For Democrats to secure the House majority, they need to win at least one of these Republican-held seats in California. It's no small task, but California has traditionally been more blue, so Democrats have a bit of an edge here, potentially. Now, without House control, Trump's administration could face a lot of hurdles. Even though he won the presidency, having the House in Democratic hands would mean tougher battles on his legislative goals. Election forecasts suggest that whichever party ends up with the majority will likely have a slim margin, maybe just a few seats. So, yeah, it's going to be really tight. And a lot like the 118th Congress, where Republicans had a slim 4-seat majority at the start of 2023. If you remember, that close margin gave rise to some serious internal conflicts among Republicans. It was so divided that House Speaker Kevin McCarthy had to go through a whopping 15 rounds of voting just to secure his position. Talk about drama. But things didn't exactly get easier after that, as McCarthy got ousted just 9 months later. A small group of Republicans staged a revolt, forcing McCarthy out of the Speaker's chair. The whole thing threw the House into chaos until Johnson was eventually chosen as the new Speaker. Since then, Republicans have had a lot to prove to voters. They've been campaigning for another 2 years of power, but their record as what some people see as an unproductive Congress hasn't made it easy. Democrats have seized on this, campaigning on the idea that Republican struggles to lead have created dysfunction in Congress. Rep. Suzanne Delbene, who heads up the House Democrats' campaign efforts, mentioned to Axios in August that all the chaos with Speaker elections and government shutdown threats really frustrates voters. Right? People don't want to see that gridlock in D.C. So yeah, this election is a big one for both parties, and even after the election, the new Congress will have a crucial role ahead. In January, they'll be responsible for certifying the results of the presidential election. This is important because back in 2020, there was a huge uproar when Trump supporters stormed the Capitol, trying to prevent Congress from certifying Joe Biden's win. It's a significant moment, and lawmakers are definitely aware of the potential for heightened tensions as they approach this next certification. Some have raised concerns that there could be more political unrest, especially given the current polarized environment. So yeah, we're in for an intense next few days, possibly even weeks, as we wait for the final House results. Each party is gearing up for what could be a very divided Congress, or if one side wins out, a more unified government. Either way, this is shaping up to be a critical moment in U.S. politics.